Hey, what's going on, guys? A little bit of everything here. Today I wanted to do a video on PTSD, what causes it. I wanted to talk about an incident where I believe that I have gotten, the PTSD terminology, where I was at whenever I got it. And not all of the things I've seen while I was locked up, but this is just one of the things. So I got on my phone here a little bit of the definition. So let's just first of all get into what it is. So it says that people may experience agitation, irritability, hostility, hypervigilance, self-destructive behavior, social isolation. So one of the things I have on here is irritability. I'm always constantly irritated, pretty much. Self-destructive behavior, yeah, I do have that, from my prior drug use and things of that nature. Social isolation, I do also have that. I kind of have a fear of being around people. My anxiety is one of them as well. But I do want to, these are also symptoms of bipolar. So maybe if you think you have PTSD, maybe you don't, maybe you do have what ranges in the bipolar range of the mental health scale. So let's get into this. So it says that PTSD is it is anxiety and flashbacks triggered by a traumatic event. So let's talk about my traumatic event that I was in. First of all, going to prison. I mean, that's extremely traumatic for a 19-year-old kid. Whenever I was 19, I ended up going down to Westville, Indiana. I did 2.5 years there, and I did all my time not all my time in Westville, but I did some of it in county and the rest of it in prison. So while I was in there, the story begins with, this is just one of the instances of where I know that the PTSD comes into play, especially from whenever I go to restaurants or something like that. I constantly have to be looking forward. I have to look around the surroundings. I have to look at everyone around me. I have to make sure I'm sitting with my back towards the wall, unless I'm in a booth and I'm able to, the booth is covering the other side, so that means no one can come behind me and attack me or anything like that. So first and foremost, in this not tutorial, but in like this explanation of PTSD, so how I figured out that I had PTSD was I took a PTSD scale test with my actual therapist, and while I was talking to him about it, he said that I do have the symptoms of PTSD, and I have yet to talk to him about what had happened prior to the PTSD happening in my life. So while I was in prison, I was on a dorm. It's called GSC Side 8 Center. If anyone's ever been to prison in Westville, Indiana, they know what 8 Center is. It's pretty much the jungle dorm. That's what they call it. We're constantly locked down. There's constant fights. There's people jumping each other. There's extortion. There's people stealing things. There's people getting hit in the head with locks. I mean, there's everything. People getting stabbed, and that's the incident I want to talk about today. Was whenever a dude did get stabbed, and I'll get more into that. But I did want to read this right here. This is a disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. So this was a terrifying event for me because I was literally right in the mix of the situation, and I didn't even put myself there, and we'll get into that. So it is treatable by a medical professional. So the thing that treats this is obviously you can get put on psych meds and stuff like that, but for me personally, being a recovering addict, I don't want to use any kind of drugs or any form of mind-altering substances. That's not my motive. My thing is to obviously pray, So I just go God, recovery, family, and things like that. The three things. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it right now. I am on no medicine because I don't want to be relied. I don't want to rely on a medicine. That's not really what I want to do. I don't want to take that route. That's why I'm doing therapy and trying to figure things out. The easier way before you do have to become a zombie or something like that. So another thing is it says it does require a medical diagnosis. So, like I said, you could have bipolar, or you could just have anxiety, or you could have paranoia. There's so many things dealing with the mental health nowadays, especially with the COVID thing and people isolating themselves, and the suicide rate is extremely high, and that's just like, you do have to be diagnosed with the actual PTSD to say that, oh, you know what, I do have PTSD. So I was clinically diagnosed by my therapist. and I am going to see a psychiatrist and stuff like that. He's probably going to talk about the medicine stuff, but like I said, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to try and work on it my way, and this is one of my ways I can get it out there, is this is my, my story, so obviously I want to talk about my story. So it says lab tests or imaging not required, so obviously they don't have to take a brain scan or anything like that. Now there are situations where they will take a brain scan. I'm not sure if it's called a PAT scan, I don't remember, but what I do know is that right there could tell you, like, if you have damage to your frontal lobe or your frontal cortex, I believe that's what it's called, things like that. If you have damage to that, then that right there can alter your mind, and that's whenever schizophrenia comes involved and things like that. So let's get into my story here. That's just some research that was on Google, obviously. So let's get into this. First of all, it's kind of hard to talk about this, because whenever you talk about something that was terrifying or traumatic in your life, it does it brings back those memories instantly. And I do have this thing that's called EMDR. Now, I cannot give the actual definition of it here. I don't want to be on my phone while I'm doing this video, but I'll give the definition. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So what it is that your brain controls two things at once, right? And then it brings that horrible memory to the front of it, but it's kind of like hypnosis, but it's not at the same time. So it's just like this, and it makes a sound or whatever. They put it in front of your eye. Now, I have yet to do this, but me and my therapist were thinking about it, but I was told by him that it's not necessarily proven to help everybody, but it is proven to help quite a bit of people, especially Vietnam vets or any kind of Marines or any kind of air military, anything like that. People who have been through that have been through way worse than I have. So, but I was getting to the story. So I was on GSC side, 8 Center. It was commissary day. We get commissary Monday every 2 weeks. And while we were walking down, I woke up in the morning playing cards, and these two dudes were talking about how they were going to attack this one guy, take his commissary or whatever. So the main reason, I believe, in my opinion and what I've seen being locked up and stuff like that, is that the main reason for people attacking other people, it's not like they have it coming to them, but it's kind of like a karma sense or whatever. So like they could be a thief, they could owe somebody a lot of money, debt. So that's a huge thing. If you owe somebody a ramen pack of noodle, you could get stabbed for it, which is crazy because they cost 88 cents in prison, maybe a little more now or even less. For one pack of ramen noodle, 88 cents, and someone is willing to take their life over that, if they've been down for a long time. So so I was walking towards the commissary or whatever, got my commissary, I come back up, I got $100 worth of commissary, I'm walking back into the dorm. Now at this rate, like I said, I didn't say it yet, but I'm a neutron or whatever, as what they call it in prison, is a neutral. So you are not in like the Bloods, the GDs, the Aryans, you're not in Dirty White Boys, you're not in no gangs like that, you're pretty much nothing, you kind of stand alone kind of guy. So sure, I hung out with people who were affiliated, but I was not affiliated. I never did get affiliated. That was kind of one of my biggest things, was people were always asking me, and I just be like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not into that, that's not for me. So it just kind of, if you ever find yourself going into a situation of being locked up or something like that, I do not recommend, joining a gang or anything like that, because if you do, man, your time will get longer and longer because of the things that I've seen people have to do. I knew this guy, he had 30 days left, and he had to go attack somebody because it was part of his initiation. So that's just one of the other things to just keep your mind on, if like younger kids, they grow up in gang life and stuff like that, but it's not something that is needed. You can handle your own. Now they look for people who have heart. That's what they call it, having heart. So like I got into a fight with this one guy, and after that I really wasn't picked on, you know what I'm saying? I really didn't I got in like 2 or 3 fights or whatever, but I was just holding my own, and I wouldn't let someone stomp all over you, because you can't do that. If you let that happen, you put target on your back, and then it's just no good. But here's the story. There's an African American guy on top bunk, the white dude on bottom bunk. Dude's coming in. He's got his commissary. The African American dude. Well, there's two African American dudes. The one with the commissary bag and the one on the bottom bunk and the white dude on top. So this is crazy because I only seen this at the corner of my eye, but I still remember it like it was yesterday, right? So I got my bag or whatever, and then I look behind me and I hear like a loud thump, right? So the white dude jumps off of his bunk, off top bunk, and he just starts pounding on this dude. And then the other African American dude, he comes up, he takes the commissary bag, and then he starts handing it to one of the white guys. He hands it to him. So he hands all of the dude's commissary to him, and then they start passing it around like it's a free for all, which was like one that's like very dehumanizing, because it's like something that you don't want to see. You know, someone's his family put that money on his books for him to get that food, and now the guy's gonna have to starve. You know what I'm saying? So it's just not okay. It's really depressing and stuff like that to see things like that. But so whenever they did that, this dude, the African American dude that got his commissary taken, he ends up pulling out a shiv. So he had a shiv about this long. I'm guessing it was probably about like, I don't know, 8 inches long. It was huge. And it was wrapped, obviously. So you're going to want to wrap it with like a bed sheet or something like that. You want to have a nice handle on it. If you are going to protect yourself, sure, you want to have a nice handle on it, whatever. I don't recommend that, to even carry one, because that can get you up to 6 months to a year longer on your sentence, added on, you know, plus what you were sentenced already. So the guy ends up pulling out this shiv, and he starts stabbing the dude. He stabbed him here in the shoulder one time, and there was like just a little bit of blood, you know, but as soon as he pulled it out, there was shooting blood, right? So then he ended up stabbing him in the neck, and like I said, I seen this in the corner of my eye, but I remember like yesterday. For one, I'm from a small town where there's like not a whole lot of gang activity and stuff like that. You know, there's just a lot of meth and drugs and stuff like that. So whenever this dude was stabbing this other guy, it was like extremely traumatic for me, because I was like, whoa, you know, this dude is trying to, well, obviously he's trying to protect himself because he knows it's about to go down, and he is his only option is to really hurt this dude or kill this dude, right? So, and I'll get into the last part of this, which is like bizarre of how correctional officers work things. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some good ones, but there's also some really, really bad ones. Like, I'm talking low of the low. I have stories of correctional officers that are low of the low, and they treat, pretty much they treat, you know, us prisoners like animals. Whenever I was in prison and stuff like that, they just treated us like animals. I have a whole bunch of stories on just the officers. There's also good officers too. There's people that actually go in there, do their job, do what they're supposed to do, you know, and they give you a little leeway, but you don't want to throw that leeway away, because if you do, then obviously they're gonna, you know, crack down on everything. But as the dude was stabbing him, he ends up pulling pulled the knife out of the dude's neck. The dude falls to the ground, and he's laying there, and obviously there's blood leaking off of him. And that's when it took like 3 minutes or something like that for the sergeant, the captain, and the lieutenant to run up in there and de-escalate the situation. So what I do is I look behind me for 1 second, I see it, and I'm like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. You know, I don't want to be the next victim. I don't know if these guys were doing it for just because they didn't have commissary or what, but, and there was also an incident where the situation that day, I actually had made a deal with somebody, and I was going to give them some of my commissary, you know what I'm saying? Because at this point I was still using. I'm not going to, you know, be upfront about it. I was still using drugs and everything. And I was going to give halfway my commissary that, you know, my family put on my books for me to purchase drugs or whatever. But he actually got kicked off the dorm like an hour before we went to commissary, but I really felt deep down in my heart, you know, like this dude was going to attack me. You know, I was going to be screwed because he was in a gang as well. So, sorry, I'm thirsty. But, so I get back to my room. Not my room, it was the open dorm. So I get back there, and I put all my commissary away real fast, because I'm like, oh man, it's popping, you know. If someone gets into it with somebody, it's like there's a lot of tension that builds up in that one day. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, one person gets a bad phone call, and then they could just freak out, and then everyone will freak out in a riot, right? It's so quick. So I'm sitting there, and the story's almost over. But I'm sitting there on my bunk. I put all my commissary away. Now what they did was they shut a cage. There's a literal cage that you shut to shut the dorm, so you cannot get out to use the bathroom or nothing like that. So they ended up shutting the cage, and what happened after that was shut the cage. I'm looking through the cage, and that's whenever the sergeant, lieutenant, the captain, they all came in or whatever, and then they ended up taking this dude out. Right, he's bleeding everywhere, taking him out, and then they ended up, well, before they took him out, this is ridiculous. Like, the fact that they would even have the nerve to do this really just, like, grinds my gears. I know it's like an actual saying or whatever, but it does. It grinds my gears. It's ridiculous. These people shouldn't work there if they're going to do this. But the dude that got stabbed, bleeding out, I'm not kidding, bleeding out, he was like, I don't know, he was just a short guy, you know, just short African American dude. And I don't get what had happened or whatever. But I don't know why it happened, but dude was bleeding out, and the CEO, the captain, sergeant, and lieutenant, they all agreed that this dude should clean up his own mess, his own blood. So they handed him a mop, and I could see this through the gate or whatever. They handed him his own mop so he could wipe up his own blood before they took him out to get him any kind of medical help or anything like that. And like I said, there's good officers, there's bad ones, but at this day in particular, these dudes were pieces of garbage. I mean, that is like the low of the low. This dude is bleeding out, and you're gonna make him clean up a blood spill. That is his own blood. So that right there is just one of the incidents I can tell you guys about like PTSD and stuff like that. Now, this is gonna be an ongoing series that I wanted to do. So I'm gonna title the thing "Dealing with PTSD," right? So, and I have more things that I want to put on this channel. I definitely want to continue this. You know, the new camera, I hope that it's working good. I think the autofocus is looking good. I'm not sure, but that is just the story this time around. You know, and if you do have PTSD, or if you think you have anxiety or depression, you know, and instead of just offing yourself, talk to somebody. You know, and I was truly, before I got sober, even before that, I mean, I was like, oh, forget them, you know, shrinks or whatever. But till this day, I'd see a therapist, because I know without a therapist and without, you know, God and everything like that, all of my family and stuff, I don't know if I would be here. You know, I don't think I would, honestly. You know, and that's a big thing for people, man. All you gotta do is reach out. There are people willing to help you, but there's also people there who will try and stomp on you. So just keep your eyes open, you know, and if, you know, you just talk to somebody. It's not that hard. Sure, it might feel like it's really hard in the beginning, but I can promise you that out of all the NA meetings and AA meetings that I've went to, and the ones that I'm going to start going to, it is so beneficial to get help, you know, because it can show you so much more about you know, addiction, as, you know, it runs in families and stuff like that, and they can tell you about that, and it just means, like, so much more to the person to know that someone's there for them, right? But that's pretty much all I had. I just want to say thank you guys for watching, have a good day, and peace out.